We've been talking about for a while how we do enjoy making mixed drinks. Sometimes it's a little more difficult when we do a podcast on it because it's, again, there's mixing involved and a lot more conversation, keeping it down to just kind of a shorter format. But I think we've got this one under control, and we've got a couple mixed drinks. You kind of came up with this idea, to be honest.
We've been talking about this for a little while. And it was just I think there are other people who have this has occurred to them as well.
I doubt it.
But it definitely eventually occurred to me. I shared it with you, and we thought, hey, let's do that.
Yeah, so we've got 2 different mixed drinks with just one slight variation. For this, give it a shot. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Keith, and we are AboutBeverages.com. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different for this podcast using these ingredients, Campari, some Michter's Rye, some sweet vermouth, and some Grey Whale gin, and of course, an orange. We are going to make these 2 drinks. Both of these drinks have 2 of the things in common, which is the Campari.
3 technically.
Oh, and that's true. The orange.
The orange.
The orange. The ubiquitous orange.
The ubiquitous orange. Yeah.
The orange, the Campari, and the sweet vermouth are in both of these drinks. But the spirit is the only thing that differs between the 2. One of them, the Negroni, will have gin, and the other is called a Boulevardier, and it will have, in this instance, it's going to have a rye whiskey.
Yeah, you definitely could use bourbon. A lot of recipes call for that. It's kind of whatever your favorite mixer is. Do you want, depending on how much you want that to shine in the drink. And again, who knows, when we try the rye one tonight, we'd be like, oh, maybe we would have liked a little something smoother, more on the sweeter side. But we're going to find out. That's what we went with because it seemed like that was maybe like the new, like, here's how to step that cocktail game up like another level, was to do the rye instead of the bourbon. So that is what we're going to try. We have already pre-mixed both of these cocktails.
They're ready to.
So they're ready to go. So we're going to just take a quick time lapse here. We're going to go grab both of those. Try them kind of at the same time, or we're going to grab one?
I think we'll probably try them soon enough to each other.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Close enough. But we've actually already, since we had never really done any like sort of in-depth tasting of sweet vermouth and Campari, you can actually go to the live show, which will be up on YouTube.
Of course.
And you can watch as we tasted both of those ingredients.
Yeah.
One of them, Andrew, had a particular affinity, or should I say aversion to,
exactly.
at least on its own.
Let's say I was gruntled with one and disgruntled with the other.
Yes, there was gruntling and disgruntling going on. So you can check that out too, because we wanted to, have at least an idea of what these all tasted like on their own before we threw them into the glass together.
All right, let's go get the drinks and we'll be right back. Well, we are back. We have brought a multitude of cocktails to the table today, as we mentioned before. So we've got a Negroni that we're going to try on the left. We've got the Boulevardier on the right. One of, obviously, interesting little comparison that we've got going on. Only one item is different. Right. Starting with the Negroni, I'm assuming?
Yeah, start with the Negroni. And the recipes for these are essentially the same thing also. Mm-hmm. You've got the 3 components, and it's equal parts of each for the most part. We did read, both of us read in a lot of different places, that for the Boulevardier, which has the whiskey, to make that part a little bit heavier.
Correct.
So that is what we have done on this. Yeah. But like I said, there's once again lots of different variations you probably could do depending on the bourbon, the whiskey you're using, depending on the gin you're using. You could tweak them a little bit, but that's essentially where you're starting from. So
yeah, and as always, make I always like with a recipe or anything else, make the drink kind of the way initially it says. Try it, and then from there go like, oh, I wish there was more whiskey in it, more of or more of one of the other things. Like then just tweak it to what your taste, whatever you desire. So, did you want to mention a little bit about vermouth and the Campari at all, or like I said, I know you were kind of talking about that earlier, that you were like
Campari is it's an Italian liqueur or an aperitif. It's a bitter. An aperitif is something that is good to have before you eat to help aid digestion. And it
would help aid my digestion. I did not want to eat after trying the Campari straight.
You would not have it.
Was not a fan.
But it's made from the infusion of herbs and fruit and alcohol and water.
Okay.
It has a history going back several hundred years, which you can find that. Will there be a link?
Well, why not?
Of course. Let's have a link. Yeah. And you can just do a quick search on the interwebs also and find that. And then sweet vermouth is a fortified wine. When fortified means that they've just added a spirit to it to bump up the alcohol. And then they've also added different herbs and things to that. And there's a long history involved in that as well. So,
but yeah, if you want to do some more research on that, you're more than welcome to. We don't need to completely get into all of that.
That's right.
Proofs on all of these: the sweet vermouth was 15%, the Campari was 24%. Or I shouldn't say proofs, I should say ABV on those. And then the whiskey, I think that one's around 80 proof, the Michter's Rye, and the gin is about the same. So all kind of very similar. So to the Negroni, they're both, let's do this both at the same time. Very similar in color. The whiskey one is obviously a little bit darker.
Going to be a little darker.
Yeah. So let's just get that out of the way.
Makes sense.
All right. So to the Aroma on the Negroni, cheers.
I guess we should have cheered before you drank, but the gin comes through.
The gin does come through, but I'm going to say I'm really glad that we did that little bit of tasting. Like I said, that was in the live show, full archive up on YouTube if you want to see all YouTube if you want to see all of that kind of stuff. Because what really comes out to me though, besides the gin, is the sweet vermouth. Like I'm really getting that basil like herbaceousness that seems to be coming through, and then a little bit of what the Campari brought seems to be in there as well. But yeah, the gin and the sweet vermouth seem to be kind of a nice blend, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just not picking up on some things. Like I said, I definitely get the juniper coming through on the gin, and I get the citrus, but that could be because we we did a little orange peel rub on the rim of the glass there.
Yeah.
That could be that too, but that is also there. So I'm not getting the vermouth as much, but
okay.
I don't, for whatever reason, maybe I'm just not picking up on stuff as much tonight.
Okay.
So
well,
as we have been, I'm defer to you.
Well, let's see what we get in the taste then.
All right.
That's very unique.
Okay.
Don't know if I like it.
Oh, okay.
I've not decided yet. Jury is still out.
Jury is out.
I'm not sure because there is just because I think because of the amount of the gin is nice in there. I think that it surprisingly comes through.
Yep.
The sweet vermouth is good, and then it's like the sweet vermouth and the Campari. Just the amount of those kind of flavors that they both bring to the table might be a little bit too much for just what I would enjoy, perhaps. Like I said, there's something there. Like I said, because I think some of that bitterness. Again, it was great that we tried both of them. I'm so glad
that
we did.
helps a lot. Yep,
that is huge. We need to do that every time. But yeah, like I said, that literally. I'm like, man, there is just a bitterness that is hanging out there, and I know what that's from, and it's the Campari.
Yeah, it's from the Campari.
And I don't know if I like that flavor in there because it doesn't seem as refreshing as it could be. How are you feeling about it?
I definitely I get the gin, and I definitely get that bitter from the Campari that just kind of spreads out. I didn't get the sweet vermouth at first until I had another sip and kind of switched it around a little bit, I guess. And then I did get that, and then I liked that note of that. I like this is a drink that I have had before.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't order a ton of mixed drinks, but I do like the way all those things kind of play. But yeah, if the Campari, which I know you didn't like solo, is still coming in, it's
coming in hot.
It may be coming in hot. It may be a third, but that might be coming in more like 40 or 45%.
Yeah.
At least because that's what it leaves you with that.
Yeah, that's kind of
definitely get that gin first, and then it goes into the other things. So
yeah, and it does have like between the gin and the Campari and some of the. I mean, it has like almost like a tonic-esque quality because that has because of the quinine, it has like that bitterness in there too, which I usually like. But then that's so much brighter. Whereas it's like I think there's something because this is just a little bit more of toward the fruit and the herbal. That bitterness is just something I got to think about it a little bit.
Think about it.
I'm very interested now to see how whiskey plays with both of these.
Okay.
I am I can't tell you how much more excited as we've gone through the stages of doing this podcast. Like I'm enjoying this more and more as we're doing this. So
do we need to cleanse the palates, or are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I should be good. Like I said. So yeah. So on to the Boulevardier, to the Aroma.
Yes. It's funny. I said this. I know with the gin, I can definitely pick out the rye in that. If that whiskey comes through.
For me, it's the whiskey, and then that sweet vermouth is really brings a lot of herbaceousness to it.
I get that next. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't get as much of the citrus from the Campari as I did in the...
A little bit at the very end. I get some of that. And
but
like I said, in a little bit, again, since we did some orange peel around the glass, like I said, that comes through. This one smells, I like the aroma on this one. Yeah. I think I like how these flavors initially in the aroma are blending together. Just because, the rye whiskey, that kind of, wood and all those, that already kind of being plant-like, I don't know, and then mixing with the herbaceous, those kind of blend together a little bit better for me, at least at the moment. So I like the aroma on this one, I think, a little better.
Okay.
All right.
The rye really, it takes charge.
Yeah.
And kind of holds the other two at bay. Letting them show, and I don't mean like it helps keep them in line, I would say.
That's what I would say as well.
It's like the director. It's putting them in their proper places.
It's putting in their proper place.
Yeah.
Which is basically
or maybe
keeping Campari at the back.
Like maybe a mixing board, a sound, let's, just making sure
It's
all
making
the ingredients are in the proper mix.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are you getting taste-wise out of that?
Well, I get the rye.
Shocking.
I get a little bit of the bitter at the end, but it doesn't linger. It's kind of gone, and I think maybe
unlike the cranberries,
it doesn't let it linger.
Have to let it linger.
That's right. Yeah. But it's like I said, still there. A little bit of the notes of the vermouth. I actually like the way those integrate. I still like this, but I like this better.
I 100% agree. Yeah. No, this one to me, just like all of the components, and I am a huge fan of gin, and I'm also a huge fan of whiskey. So it's not difficult for me to say like, no, this to me, the Boulevardier, like this is something I would actually order. This is something I would actually get. The Campari works in here. Yeah. It works well with like I said, that bitterness that kind of hits, because the whiskey is just a little heavier, a little bit more forward, just kind of like you said, kind of grabbing things a little bit more. It's able to incorporate that flavor in particular for me better. The sweet vermouth plays in there nicely. The herbaceousness of that, like I said, a little bit of the cherry, the little bit of the orange that we're getting. And then again, along with the whiskey, like I said, I think the rye was probably a good call. I'm sure it's delicious with anything. But this one in particular seems to be working and this is not a high proof rye in any way too. So that would be interesting. Like I said, it depends on how much more whiskey you want to come through. But I honestly think this blend is pretty good. Like I think it's a nice balance of all of those things, because I don't think I'd want the whiskey to come forward anymore. Because
I agree.
Because then it would just be like, what drink? Like you're just having whiskey. Some point.
Not
a bad thing.
And you have a more extensive knowledge of whiskey than I do, but because we also talked about using the pinhook, which was a higher.
We talked about a higher proof,
right? I think that could have still worked though, right?
A high proof, yeah. I think a higher proof could, if you wanted just a little more heat,
a little more heat.
Just depends on how much flavor was being brought. And the pinhook, again, like we talked about, kind of is, even though it's a higher proof, is a little more reserved on some of the flavors,
right?
As well. That might have worked in here too. Like if you just wanted like even more of a sipper, like winter, like that would really turn it into a winter kind of cocktail for me. But no, I that one to me is the far superior of these two drinks. Just because probably of my slight aversion to the Campari, which to me really comes through, and the Negroni, which I thought was going to be like, oh, this is the refreshing summer cocktail, and this is the winter one. Yeah, I think this one is still, like I said, the Boulevardier is still refreshing enough that it would be totally fine. The one on the other side, like I said, is just a little like the gin is just. The other things come through a little bit too much. Yeah, the gin sort of boosts up those other things, whereas the whiskey sort of levels them out. Like I said, keeps them under control. That is an excellent way to put. Yeah, that is 100%. Like I said, the gin boosting some of the herbaceousness, whereas the whiskey kind of incorporates everything a little bit better. Yep. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I'm gonna have to find a button here. It's gonna take a second. Wait, not that one. There's the button. I've got to find the button. There it is. Right. Show me the button. Okay. If you are enjoying any kind of podcast or something like this, or want any of these recipes, AboutBeverages.com is the place to go. You can find everything that we have ever done, which is shockingly over a decade's worth of content. You can go there for whether it's recipes like these, or like I said, any of our podcasts or videos, everything that we've ever done is always on our website. If you only want the latest videos like this one, or the archives of our live podcasts that we do every Thursday, you can definitely subscribe on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate that. If you only want audio, shockingly, we've got you covered there as well. Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, all of those things. We are front and center. If you have a certain podcast app that you enjoy using, just search for About Beverages, and you'll probably find us there. It's pretty much that simple. We've even expanded into like interweb kind of things too. Like there's places where you can, like places where you can like, oh man, I wish there was other places that I could just like find out information that comes our way, something that holds up. I mean, like social media pillars? Yeah, social media things. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we do have you those. Got it. That's right. We have Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.
You can find us on those. Twitter is the one we use most of all. Like earlier this evening when I tweeted that we were about to go live on twitch.tv/AboutBeverages, which we do most Thursday evenings at around 5:30 Pacific or so. We get together, we try some beverages, sometimes mixed beverages, sometimes beers, whatever.
Water?
Soda. We've done all kinds of things. We get to hang out with our viewers in chat and have all kinds of fun discussion and learn things from them as well.
We did.
We learn, they learn. It's a lot of fun. Also, Andrew's going to keep you up to date on what he is doing throughout the week in the gaming world, what he's going to be playing, what he's going to be drinking while he's exploring those worlds. And for everything that's going on at About Beverages, you can follow us on Twitter.
But, as we always say, whether we like it or not,
you should give it a mixed shot.